Welcome to Beyond the Script with MedAdvisor Solutions. My name is Vinod Subramanian. I'm the Chief Operating and AI Officer. And joining me today in this episode of the podcast is Suresh Sundararajan, CEO at Mindsprint. Suresh, welcome to Beyond the Script.
Thank you. Thanks, Vinod, for having me here. It's a pleasure to be with you here on this podcast.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for your time. I know you're a very busy person. Before we jump into the dialogue, Suresh, I know you are very passionate about cricket. But before we jump into that topic, would love to hear about your role, your passion. I know you're involved in many entities. You're also a family man, just to get to know you.
Sure, Vinod. This is my 35th year of professional work experience. I think the salient part of that is I've spent almost a significant part of that with one company, Olam Group, and Mindsprint is part of the Olam Group. Just in March of this year, I completed 29 years with Olam. It's not something that happens these days when you come across, especially youngsters, you say that you spent 29 years with one company, they're all shocked, right? But my journey into Olam started in 1996. Before that, I spent 5 years working in India for a large engineering group, and I left India to work in Africa for Olam Group. Olam is one of the largest agricultural supply chain manager in the world, with operations in more than 60 countries. And Olam manages multiple agricultural commodities that all of us consume on a daily basis, like, for example, coffee, cocoa, cashew nuts, pistachios, walnuts, cotton as a natural fiber. So Olam has been in the business for 36 years. It's relatively a young company. Since 1989 until now, it has built this global leadership position in many of the commodities. And just about 5 years back, Olam embarked on a corporate restructuring where we wanted to split the businesses into different groups and unlock value by demerging them from the corporate group. Out of that was born Mindsprint. Before Mindsprint, we were just a captive organization supporting Olam in all the growth from 1989 till 2020, whether it was classic BPO, GBS, Global Business Services, or technology, or infrastructure, or cybersecurity. All that was done by this group. But when Olam embarked on this restructuring, we carved out the captive technology and BPO piece and set it up independently as Mindsprint. So my 29 years career in Olam spans across finance because my background is finance, though today I oversee technology. So I've spent a lot of years in running finance, mergers and acquisition, corporate strategy, investor relations, taxation, risk, market compliance. I've done all that for Olam, and before that in India. The last 10 years, I would say from 2014, I focused a lot of time and effort in making sure the technology and back office services of Olam are scaled up to support the business strategy and the business growth. So that's a little bit about my career. 35 years, finance professional degree, about 25 years in finance and 10 years in technology. I've got grown up children, adults actually. They are twins. I have a son and a daughter. My son is a lawyer. He's currently in Sydney, in Australia. My daughter is in learning and development. She did her master's in cognitive science from Columbia in the US. And she's currently in Houston working for a large telecom infra provider. So that's a brief summary about me. And I live in Singapore. I've been in Singapore for a long time, since 1998. I'm a Singapore citizen as well.
Yeah, quite a journey, Suresh, and not just a global journey. You are truly a global citizen. The first I have talked to who's not just worked, traveled extensively across the world, and not just a few cities, right? You seem to have traveled across all continents, connections in different parts of the world. You're well centered, literally, with your family in two sides of the world, right? That is amazing. And quite
Especially,
a journey, right? From financial technology.
yeah, I think I should say I owe that to, it's a privilege, right? I cannot just claim credit for anything I've done. Not often you end up joining a company that is in a hyper growth phase, and then you stick with that company. And so you experience what all the hyper growth gives you in terms of intellectual challenges in your professional career. And if you meet them, also professional growth that you would otherwise not get anywhere, right? So when I joined Olam, we were $50 million in revenue. Today, Olam is $54 billion in revenue, Singapore dollars, right? So I tell people my career is in some way a 50M to 50B transition, where I joined. It was a very small company, but very hungry, tall aspirations, that took us from being private to eventually listing Olam in 2005, and had the privilege to be part of the team that took Olam public in 2005 in Singapore, and therefore get exposed to multiple functions in the hypergrowth phase. I was very lucky. In fact, I told I went to Africa. When I went to, I joined Cameroon in West Africa. My first job in Olam was in Cameroon. So it gave an opportunity for me to travel to more than 25 countries in Africa. And more importantly, before I left India, I didn't even know where Cameroon was on the map. I was in Chennai all along from birth, all my education. My 5 years of work was in Chennai. Never ventured out of India. But it was a risk I wanted to take and say, I don't care where Cameroon is. Let's go and figure out. I don't know what Olam is. Let's join and figure out. And fortunately for me, it worked out. So in that sense, I'm very grateful and very privileged to be part of that journey.
Yeah, it truly is. As you said, Suresh, there are very few companies where you have the opportunity to work for such a long time and still feel that, right, you can contribute more, you can learn more, and you see the company in constant inflection points of growth, right? It's a great journey, and it's quite inspiring as well. I think more importantly, it's in a way, right, when you look at the journey, it's a fond opportunity that anybody would want, right, where you're continuously in one place and not constantly switching from different places, where while it's still meaningful, you don't get that connection, right? You're building something from the 50M to 50B. That's
Yeah.
quite a journey, right? And it's an amazing ways.
Thank you.
Very nice. I think that's a great background. Jumping in, right, in the interest of time, Suresh, I think you mentioned few things, right, that stood out for me. I think, see, leaders often have a personal mission, right, that drives them. And as a CEO of the company, right, with some amazing experience and your journey, what is yours, right, and how have that mission, right, shaped the way you lead your company?
I think till about 4 or 5 years back, when we were captive, the vision was simply to be a strategic partner for businesses within Olam. I wanted to shift this concept where the business stakeholders in Olam do not look at technology and BPO as a cost center or as a center that provides services and build to businesses, right? So that is a very traditional approach where functions are often looked at as cost centers. Always there are very tough arguments in terms of what is the value a function brings in, whether it is finance, risk, audit, etc., etc. Finance, at least you could argue, every company needs a finance because that's an indispensable part of running a business. But when it comes to technology, people get stuck with value articulation. So I'm going to spend X dollars on an enterprise application. I'm going to spend Y dollars on a new platform. What is the value I'm getting? And that is not something that the tech teams can do in isolation. And that is not something that the business teams also can do in isolation. It's working together to drive the business forward, to make sure that your strategic goals are achieved. You need to look at these functions as enabling function. So my mission the last 7 8 years when we were captive was to drive across Olam businesses, functions, and countries, telling them that we are here to make sure how we can turbocharge your business growth, make your functions very productive and lean, and see how we can drive cost savings and revenue growth. That was the vision, so that nobody looked at us as a cost center. When we restructured and set this up as an independent company as Mindsprint, the vision now is much more larger than just Olam, where we wanted to be seen again as a partner who has the passion, who has the ability to intimately understand the businesses of our customers, and therefore go on a journey that will help these customers achieve their vision or strategic plans or their goals, business and financial goals. That's how we look at it, not as an engagement that runs into 3 months, 6 months, or 9 months. We want to have a seat at the table where we are given an opportunity to challenge your problem statements, bring in our domain expertise, and say, this is how we should go in our journey. That is an organization that I'm trying to build, where I don't want people to just assume that we are working in a tech company, we are one among thousands of people, and we will come to work every day, do something, and go on. I think that doesn't really appeal emotively to employees. If I want to inspire employees, I want every employee in Mindsprint to be able to some way connect to the end outcome our customers are achieving, what we are planning to get our customers. I think that link, in my opinion, strengthens the purpose, strengthens the emotive alignment with your employees, and gets the best out of them. So today I'm saying Mindsprint vision is to really help businesses reimagine the businesses with technology and insight driven solutions. So not just as a tech company that ends up developing some systems or applications for customers. And in that vision, I am bringing in, because now that's the flavor of the day, how do we have an AI first approach in everything that we do? And it's not a tagline. It is basically making sure how we can look at AI in multiple dimensions that will affect Mindsprint and that will affect Mindsprint services to people like yourselves, for example. So the first part is driving extensive adoption of AI within Mindsprint to increase productivity. So we are partly doing that by platforms that we have built like DevExtreme, which helps to automate code writing significantly. We are encouraging legal function, finance function, admin function, all of them to use various tested AI tools to improve their productivity. I made sure all the 3,200 employees sign on Udemy to take a 101 on Gen AI course. It's a 4 hours duration. I did that on a Sunday. Then I sent a mail to everybody that, you should do it. And I'm not expecting you to do on a weekend, because for me, all of you learning on the job is part of your job. So in about 1 month, 96% of all of Mindsprint employees went through that 4 hours of Gen AI course on Udemy. The second part of AI is in all our practices. How do we bring an AI first approach, whether it is SAP or Salesforce or bring a digital platform for you? How do we build AI components on top of it, which will drive rapid adoption, bringing in efficiencies and productivity growth? The last part of it is develop custom AI solutions that we can go to market with. There are a couple of things that we have launched like Sprint and Procure that we can talk about it later. Essentially, in two parts, if I have to sum up, the vision or the purpose is to help reimagine businesses with whoever we are working in a strategic partnership level, where we get a seat on the table in looking through the problem statements, defining them, articulating them, and then ending up working on a solution, execute them, and making sure that everybody is focused on how we can build Mindsprint as an AI first organization.
That's a great point. I think a couple of things you mentioned, Suresh, right, that actually resonated a lot personally with me, but also the journey that many companies are taking in the industry today. You don't decide that you want to use AI and then look for the problem or the unmet need that you're looking to solve. You actually understand what you're looking to solve and then look for the right tactic, and it may be AI, right, in the process. The other piece is, I think at the end of the day, right, AI is elevating the human experience at its core. It is about making sure that your organization is actually thinking and is ready, right, from a culture point of view to adopt AI. And for that, you need to be aware of what it can and cannot do, and not just blindly applying it. I think the other part you mentioned about, right, is the purpose at the core of everything we do, right? Whether it's specific to industry or even in our personal journey, you need to be clear about your purpose, and that will automatically guide you, right, in your journey in life or business, right? So yeah, it's
I think
amazing journey. Well said.
Yeah, what you mentioned really made one comment that you made, Vinod, really resonates very strongly. There is often FOMO when it comes to experimenting or adopting technology, like the fear of missing out, where the way you defined it, I also defined it differently, like inventing the problem approach, where there is no problem, but you have these fancy technologies going around. You want to adapt it. So you're actually inventing a problem, right? And the best experience of the example I can recollect is when blockchain was very popular 7 years back. Everybody was talking about blockchain, using blockchain in corporate, right? And I was running digital for Olam, and one of the most common use cases was traceability. But even then, I was very clear who's going to pay for it. So we are selling cocoa and coffee and cotton. We are not shipping diamonds. So if I have to put a blockchain platform for traceability of cocoa, which I'm doing in millions of tons, who's going to pay for it, right? So even today, for example, if you wind back and fast forward and see, blockchain never got into scalable implementation on those use cases like traceability. So I think we should not get really tempted by the compulsive attraction of using technology. Take a step back and see what are our core business problems, what do we need to solve in terms of a prioritization, and then see what technologies can help. And in many cases, we would be surprised to see that the technology which is about 5 to 10 years old is more than enough to solve some of the problems that we are trying to address today in our business.
Yeah, very true. Very true. So I think the point you made, right, about excitement. So there is considerable excitement for anything AI, right? There's almost AI splash right now, and there is healthy skepticism, and the value is somewhere in the middle, right? And specifically in healthcare, I can tell you there's plenty of skepticism and need for proof points before the AI is fully leveraged and adopted. How do you see, right, AI truly empowering individuals and augmenting that intelligence in your industry, and also, right, in many ways in healthcare as well, right, from your experience?
Yeah. I think I would like to think the approach has to be in a few ways. Concurrently, how we can pursue an agenda which will ensure that we are not left out in achieving true progress by embedding AI, right? For example, the easiest thing to today do is all productivity related tools. There are several. And now here there is no justification for any employee not to use simple AI tools in improving his or her productivity in the organization. So every company should have a methodical approach of looking at the tools, testing them, approving, curating a list, sharing with all the employees, and giving guidance of how to use. At the same time, taking an appetite on what is the cyber risk or the information risks that you are willing to take, so that your company's cyber teams can allow a lot of these tools. Once you have created this framework, at least you would have initiated a journey that every employee in some ways can use AI tool. For example, if you're on Microsoft Suite, Copilot everybody can use. Right? So there are people in my companies who use Copilot extensively for many purposes. Interesting example: the one person who is temperamental was advised to use Copilot to edit all the emails before that person sends, because he might end up sending a very nasty email on an impulsive mode. Now, Copilot helps to tone down the messages so the person can use that tool. Just last week in Mindsprint, I asked my research people to curate 20 tools. So we have curated 20 tools and sent company wide to all the 3,200 people, giving them clearly, if you're a software engineer, you can use these tools like Cursor, etc. If you're just an employee in an enabling function, you can use these tools for either creating PowerPoint or doing a basic research or doing a flow chart or doing a sum up. These tools we have tried and tested, and these are available for you to use, right? So the first thing we can do, because there is no excuse for anybody today or in the next 2 years or 3 years to say that they are not using any AI tool at all. The significant impact of changing the pyramid of the organization. I believe the pyramid from a classic pyramid will get inverted at the bottom, where because of significant productivity, you will not need so many people doing many of the menial tasks that
Yeah.
agents and these AI tools could do. That realization every employee should have. And we have seen that a lot of CEOs are now sending letters to employees. That's become now a fancy thing, right? That be AI first, otherwise there is no job and things like that. But it's just about productivity, and it's about the benefit that you can get. And I've seen how it can help for me when I'm doing some research. It's so efficient in terms of time. The second part of applying AI in business, we cannot boil the ocean. There, it has to be very premeditated in terms of what are the biggest business problems you're facing, and just pick, I would say, one or two, and then see how you can embed AI in those areas. For example, we are building a platform for you. You have this Thrive platform, and we are trying to bring in a lot of data analytics on top of your platform so that you can significantly improve your stakeholders, whether it is pharmacies or pharma companies or patients, right? So here, embedding AI to create chatbots, embedding AI to do self-learning so that it can continuously give you suggestions to improve the platform are all use cases that we can try out. But whether we do the productivity part of it or we get AI to solve really business problems or accelerate growth, for example, you want to scale up now, right? One of the principal vision you have, is to make sure how you leapfrog on innovation, how you want to grow faster and expand globally from your current presence. You very strongly believe you can do that only when you have taken care of the basics, which is a central world-class shared services, a great platform that can allow you to expand very quickly. Then I think you can try and definitely experiment with AI by taking one or two big cases. But for both these, you and your board needs to be very clear what is the acceptable risk level from a cyber and information privacy viewpoint, document do's and don'ts, and I think there will be element of risk that's unavoidable. We have to, as long as you are okay with that, we document it and move forward, right? In certain industries, if it is completely prohibited, then I think it gives very little opportunities to experiment. For example, I know lot of large companies are very restrictive in allowing any tools inside. Even much of the Olam doesn't allow many of the tools, not even Chat GPT, for fear of information leakage and other such issues.
Yeah, I think you answered another important question, Suresh, right, about the challenges, right, pitfalls that companies should watch out and strike a balance, right? It's a very important aspect as you foray into AI. It's about experimentation, learning, using it in small ways, and not going either overboard or underboard, right? When it comes to being innovative, it is about having the open mind, but at the same time, right, experimenting in ways where you build confidence and then ramp it up, right?
Yeah.
It's a very important journey, right? It's great to hear.
We can isolate our experiments, and if they give the desired outcome, we can bring it back to implement in the larger landscape. And that was a classical approach in digital as well, right? When the digital transformation and the digital revolution story came about a decade back, it was all about small agile teams working in large organizations, multiple functions, multiple businesses coming together and working on a dynamic basis to create a prototype or to build a solution, and then see what legs they have before they are brought into the main. There may be cases where you don't have that luxury because you want to go fast, you have to grow fast, and you have, say, a platform that has to be upgraded, and the only way to go from 1 to 10 is to really bring in AI and not go from 1 to 5 and 5 to 10. In those
Yeah.
cases, you need to be very clear what will be the downside in terms of your external obligations to your customers and stakeholders, and take a call. I think you will come across both these situations. Sometimes it will not allow you to do small experiments because you need to go at that pace. You need to just do things faster.
Yeah, very true. From that lens, Suresh, what emerging trends or AI applications are you most excited about, right, for the next 10 years? You talked about curating AI applications, right, that would be relevant for your organization. But what are your thoughts, right, on things beyond that and emerging trends?
I think one trend that everybody is talking about, again, it becomes a rhetoric if you utter these words in any discussions, like agentic AI. You can come across this a billion times in a day. But I am amazed at what these things could do in terms of it even blurs the SaaS and services, which traditionally were looked at as completely independent and nothing to do with each other, right? You had first services coming in, and SaaS companies came in with software as a service was talked about, and now agentic AI blurs the boundaries between these two. So, this framework of having agents to execute tasks, having agents to which will learn when they execute tasks, agents which will communicate with each other in executing tasks. If we nail it, I think that will be the holy grail, because the way it can change a company's ability to automate workflows at multiple levels, and not only do that but continuously adapt and learn as an intelligent system, is going to be dramatic. It's mind boggling.
Yeah, it is a force multiplier, as you said. And
Significant. Yeah. So what the example in Mindsprint's context is, let's take Sprint AP. Sprint AP came out of a classic accounts payable services in a classic BPO. Now, in BPO, the traditional game is labor arbitrage. You have 100 people in a labor expensive country. You want to move that processing to a country where the labor is cheaper, then you get savings. That was a classic BPO. The next wave of transformation in BPO or GBS was people started using this RPAs, robotic path automation, like Automation Anywhere or UiPath. So all these small robots ended up doing rule-based tasks very well without any intelligence. That was the second phase of GBS transformation. The current phase that we are looking at is where agents do these activities, and there could be one person who can, with the help of a dashboard, be monitoring 100 agents doing the job 24 by 7. and completely shift even your business model, where instead of charging based on number of people you employ, you charge based on the outcome that you provide. So our payment solution says we've got 7 or 8 agents: invoice agent, a coding agent, a validation agent, extraction agent, and a chat agent. These agents operate in Symphony to seamlessly deliver a touchless payment processing system in more than 100 languages. So from the when an invoice is sent on the email, from extracting things in that email all the way to processing it and applying the rules of that company for processing for payment, to creating a 24 by 7 chatbot which will help suppliers and employees to understand the status of the payments, to even a process discovery agent which will continuously see which is passing through, which is not passing through, why it is not passing through, how we can better the processes on those workflows. This is really a game changer. And with that, we are able to offer 100% audit trail, more than 99% accuracy, 70% faster time to process invoices, and the cost of processing an invoice significantly goes down. So today, when I have
Wow.
discussion with customers, I say, okay, you want to give us your payable processing? How many invoices you have? My charge will be per invoice 70 cents. And these are the KPIs I deliver. So that's a game changer. So for me, the agents, autonomous agents or agents working with each other is going to very, very significantly change the way we look at automation of workflows. We look at how we man with people to manage those workflows. All this is going to change dramatically.
And 70% improvement is transformational, right? In the
Yeah.
world we live in, it's just amazing. If you could offer one piece of advice to organizations, Suresh, currently exploring AI solutions, what would that be?
Okay, this is something. Um, Stepping back, I would say at a philosophical level, what I always believe is the capacity to think unconstrained. If we don't promote or encourage our employees to think in an unconstrained manner, you will not be able to nurture a culture of innovative mindset. I'll tell you why. In our classic day jobs, we all get bogged down by our routines. So much so we get sucked into meetings and meetings and meetings, and if not meetings, responding to emails with very less time to think for medium term and long term. And when it comes to think, we do apply a lot of constraints and remove a lot of possibilities ourselves because we apply the constraints. We'll say this idea, no, that's not going to work because that's expensive. This idea, it's not going to work because the companies will not approve this particular project or whatever it is. So I keep telling my people, your job is to think unconstrained. Your job is not to apply constraints. Somebody else will come and apply constraints. So tomorrow you come and tell me, Suresh, I want to develop a program for launching Mars mission. You think. I will say, thank you, we are not in that business, but good thinking. Think like that. Help build a culture where people are thinking in that unconstrained approach, which will be the birthplace of really the next great idea you will come across as an organization. Because often, we know you will appreciate this. We are in some ways sitting in ivory towers, managing business from a strategic perspective. But the customer friction, the noises, the opportunities come from the frontline soldiers. Unless we have a
Yeah.
way to analyze their views up to the boardroom, you will never be having that strong innovation pipeline. What we end up doing most of the times is get a big three consulting firm. Okay, now you present this industry, this is a competition, what is the next bet and all. That can help in some ways. But your employees also have to think in an unconstrained way. So my single piece of advice would be whether it is AI or quantum computing or something else that's going to come up for which we don't have a name yet. If our employees have to be always adept, open, and responsive to the change that's coming, they have to have an unconstrained thinking, which means they'll have to read a lot, they have to think a lot, they have to brainstorm a lot. There has to be an organized process of how a company can build an innovation culture.
Yeah, it's very true. I think, Suresh, a path right from direction to disruption starts with not just listening to everybody in the organization, especially the frontline talent. It's actually about translating that ability to absorb and observations into actionable uh, plan, right? That can be incorporated in your continuously learning. I think that's what makes an organization not just a learning organization, but an organization that is taking that into experience. It's a great point. It's a great point that you made. So, reflecting on your career, what was the most significant lesson about innovation or leadership that you've learned?
I would respond to both. I think leadership, there are million books and very great people who have written about that. But if my version of leadership, the one trait I value the most is authenticity. I'm saying this because it is easy to discover. It is easy for people to feel and perceive your authenticity. I'm talking to you, I'm having a conversation. I meet you personally, I have a conversation with you. And through my body language and the way I talk to you, you'll be able to gauge whether I'm authentic or I'm putting up a play. So if leadership is something where you carry a lot of people, you have to convince a lot of people on a difficult journey, on a challenging journey, or an aspirational goal. Leadership is about where you want people to come to a consensus despite having divergent views. Without your authenticity, you'll not be able to do that. Right? People have to see what you have to offer, whether people can trust in you. And the trust comes because of authenticity, is my humble belief. On the first part of your question about lesson learned in Olam, is always challenge the status quo. If you think that the status quo is good enough by giving justification that this industry will not change or commodity trading could be boring, nothing can happen digitally. As a large player, there is no risk of disruption by competition. If you have this preconceived notions and don't challenge the status quo, we will never be able to progress. And that is something I learned because Olam was continuously changing, growing fast and evolving, which is why we define Olam's DNA as an insurgent organization, not an incumbent organization. We are not an incumbent group of people. We are insurgents where we come and try and see how we can do things differently, how we can challenge the status quo. And by virtue of that, Olam has grown into a large supply chain manager in a very short span of time in 36 years. So I would say challenging status quo and authenticity as leadership.
Yeah, those are great values, Suresh. I think the first company I worked for called Fujitsu, right? They had this motto that you bring your personal best to work every day. And it's going back to that point you made, right, about being authentic and curiosity, right? If you don't have that, right, you're not going to be able to challenge status quo. It's not about blindly being aggressive. It is about being thoughtfully in a way where you're influencing, right? Impact comes from people first and then solutions, right? So for that, you got to engage in the right way. It's just, yeah, it's truly good, right? Authenticity and challenging status quo, great values and a great takeaway as well. Finally, what's one bold prediction you would make on the future of technology, whether it's in healthcare or any other industry?
I think I am not a guru to make that prediction. What I can say is people are underestimating or unclear about the opportunities and challenges of quantum computing. Now, while everybody is talking about AI, we have that lurking around the corner. The next wave is that. But today, if people are ill prepared for AI, then I don't know what's going to happen when quantum computing comes into the main stage. It can solve some basic problems on material science and promoting big things on ESG goals, etc. At the same time, the whole cyber posture also gets threatened by any tech advancement, right? Unfortunately, when any development comes, both the good actors and the bad actors have access to the same advancements in technology. So you can be proud of a 32 encrypted password, which can take a billion combinations, nobody can crack. If a quantum computer can crack, then it significantly enhances your risk profile also. So, how are we prepared to handle that? I have no idea. It's because people are not thinking about it. Right now, everybody is focusing on this AI, and with LLMs coming in, it's all about language models and agentic AI. But the next thing is quantum computing. Will be very keen to see what discussions we're going to have on that and how it's going to affect businesses or even the way we lead our lives.
Yeah, I think the point on quantum computing, the interesting part, right, keeping the challenges aside, it is definitely an intent amplifier in my view because I think it's about getting things done faster as long as you're clear about what you're getting done and what outcomes you want to execute. And then the technology that enables you to do there and get there faster and learn from it. And I think it also challenges the traditional thinking of forming, norming, and then developing and then executing, learning and going, because quantum challenges that way of traditional logical thinking into abstract thinking and enabling you to do multiple things in parallel. So almost like the basics of high performance computing. Great point. Great point. I don't know where the time went, Suresh. This was quite insightful and great insights. And thank you for taking the time to join the podcast. And more importantly, thank you for sharing your journey and your leadership insights, right, in terms of how you're guiding your organization. And congratulations on the amazing journey from 50 million to 50 billion. That's not a small, trivial effort. And very few in the world can definitely talk to that and be part of the journey, right, and share that with everyone. Congratulations again, and thank you for taking the time to join us today.
Thank you. I think I've been lucky in the journey, Vinod. Thanks for having me. We had great discussions. And thank you, more importantly, for giving us an opportunity as Mindsprint to be part of your journey in being a partner and what you're trying to achieve. Your aspirations are very commendable and great. And we hope we will be there right with you, alongside you, in making sure your business goals are achieved through this great partnership. And thank you for that.
Absolutely. Thank you, and have a wonderful day.